Tomorrow, as you probably already know, there will be a rally of white supremacists at a Confederate War Memorial near the University of Tennessee campus on 17th Street. There will be across the street a counter protest, and along with many of you and what I expect will be thousands of East Tennesseans, I plan to go. And I wanted to talk with you a little bit about that decision. First of all, I think protest is not the only approach for engaging social change in our times. There are many of us who have different inclinations, have different gifts and different social locations. I always say that the civil rights movement took Malcolm X on the prophetic edge, Martin Luther King there at the negotiating table, Whitney Young at the Urban League showing up and working inside the system, Fannie Lou Hamer doing popular education in Mississippi, Nina Simone inspiring people through her art, through her music. So it takes many different gifts, many different strategies. But let me tell you about protest or public rallies as one of those. There's a tradition that goes way back for centuries across Europe that's called rough music in England or Katzenmusik in Germany or charivari in France. And basically it's when the community gathers together, usually at night and with pots and pans or loud noisemakers, and finds a way to voice its displeasure. It could be that there's someone who's known to be a thief, or there's a household where there's domestic violence. And often across cultures, these are events or protests that are organized by the women in the community, even back 500-600 years ago. And I have thought about this in terms of modern day protests, because those who are critical of protests will say, what practical outcome does it achieve? It is not passing legislation. It's not engaging in dialogue. It's not changing anything concrete. But what I think protest does, and specifically in the face of white supremacist protests, is it sets a moral norm for the community. It defines the values and the parameters of acceptability in a community. It's a little bit of modern day rough music. And so when white supremacists show up on the University of Tennessee campus tomorrow to be greatly outnumbered, maybe even by the thousands outnumbered by East Tennesseans who say, we are a place of tolerance, we aspire to equity, we are working toward the beloved community, is a way to establish what the norms are in this community. Of course, we can't stop only with protest, only with rallies, only with setting the moral norms. We can't even stop with engaging white supremacists at their most outrageous and extreme. We, as Unitarian Universalists, are engaged in confronting white supremacy, the insidious, pervasive system of domination and of racism that is wound throughout our society, that is there through our history, and is even in the hearts of those of us who are raised and identified as white. So it is internal work, self-examination work, it is spiritual work, it is also policy work and institution-changing work, it is hard work. So let's remember that that's the long picture, is working toward the beloved community in all these ways that little by little change our societies. But within that long haul, there is a time for the community to move out, to show up in strength and in great numbers, and to say, this is what our community stands for. These are the values of our community. And this is what is outside acceptability. And from those norms to then move on to the aspirations of institutions, to new policies, new laws, and hopefully a new country. Thank you for the role that you play in all of that.